Yeah, I felt like clapping too. Herbie, whose version is this? Oh, that version was Sonny Bradshaw's version of the anthem. So please put your hands together. Good evening, everyone. I know that we're very happy and delighted to see each other, but we're also the most polite audience on earth. And so I'm going to ask that we be polite, and if we must speak to the person next door, that we do so softly. Um, okay, yes, I've been also reminded to tell you to just put your phones on silent. We're not asking you to turn them off. Put your phones on silent, and if you must take a call, we just invite you to step outside to do so. Those of you who bought the program and those of you who are here for the official launch of Grounation last week will remember that Grounation 2026 main point is Jamaica's future depends on valuing and bringing its African roots, music, patois, traditions into its national identity. If reggae or patois fades, it is a crisis. For Jamaica to last, it must embrace African cultures and their legacies at its core. So our theme this afternoon, African Roots, Jamaican Fruits, from folk traditions to contemporary cultural arts, is a reminder that we experience Jamaican culture. The experience of Jamaican culture did not emerge by chance. It is a result of African continuities cultivated through struggle, through memory, and creative survival. So this Grounation is about tracing our lineage somewhat of Africa, particular today, Central Africa, that it did not vanish in the Middle Passage, but arrived, transformed, and took root. It's about recognizing that our folk traditions are not remnants of the past, but living systems of knowledge that continue to shape how we perform, how we move, how we sing and express ourselves today. So this afternoon, we're quite privileged to hear from two scholars who I'll introduce. Before that, however, I want to acknowledge some people who make this possible. We want to say huge thanks to our sponsors, because without them it cannot happen, unless you put very hefty donations in the box you see outside that we will even walk around with. The Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, the Institute of Jamaica, Tasty Jamaica, S Hotels, B&D Trawling, Myers, Fletcher and Gordon, Pan Jamaica, VNP Foundation, Freight Handlers, Martel Fennel, Discovery Water, Lasco, Chase Fund, IRI FM, Roots 96 FM, Cool 97 FM. Of course, we want to put our hands together for the Grounation Committee and IOJ staff for their good work, led by Herbie Miller, Rosemary Duncan, Isabel McDonald, and the foundation members. I want us to just stand for a moment as we do a pause to acknowledge one of Jamaica's greatest icons, Mr. Sly Dunbar. I ask everyone to stand. You don't have to, Thelma. And just a moment of silence for Mr. Sly Dunbar. May he rise in power and light perpetually shine on him. It is my pleasure. You may say thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Mrs. Thelma Dunbar, who is sharing with us today. And I now invite Thelma. Do we? Or not now? All right. Please, ladies and Thelma, keep standing so they could acknowledge you. Thank you so much. We will, before the end of the day, make formal announcements of SLAI's celebrations. The night was held, but we will announce the viewing as well as the funeral service later on in the program. By the way, my name is Colleen Douglas. It is not the most important thing, but it is my pleasure to be your moderator today. This afternoon, we're privileged to hear from two scholars whose work help us to see the connections mentioned earlier more clearly. I would like to invite both of them to the platform now. Professor Maureen Warner-Lewis and Professor Clinton Hutton. They may take their seats. And while they settle, I want to yeah. Not necessarily this first one. Yeah. We will give Professor Hutton some time to settle and begin with Maureen Warner-Lewis, whose pioneering research on Central African linguistic and cultural continuities has fundamentally reshaped how we understand African presence in the Caribbean. She was my professor in first year at UWI in the Department of Literatures in English. And so it is my pleasure to welcome her as she shares with us the Central Africa in the Caribbean. Let us welcome Professor of Caribbean Political Heritage, Linguistic Heritage and Unique Cultural Traditions, Professor Maureen Warner-Lewis, to the platform.
Good afternoon, everybody. I have been asked to speak on Central Africa in the Caribbean, and it happens to be the title of my book, which is on sale outside at iNation's offerings. I want to say also that there's an article on Jamaica's Central African heritage in this issue of Jamaica Journal, volume 28, numbers 2 and 3. So for any of you who want to go further, because I can just skim this afternoon, so that those of you who want to do further reading are invited to have a read of the book, Central Africa in the Caribbean, Transcending Time, Transforming Cultures, because it's not just one culture that came from Africa, but several, many. I want to begin with a map of Africa. Can the technical people put up a map of Africa so that we can see where West Central Africa is? It includes countries like the Cameroon, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the DRC, that we hear so much about these days in the news. It was at one time called Zaire. There's also another Congo state to the north of it, and also the large country of Angola. Can't get it up as yet? All right, I'll have to continue. I still want it up, please. And I continue by saying that recent estimates indicate that about 44% of the Africans who were transported to the Americas, 44%, approximately 5 million over 4 centuries, were from this particular area, particularly the area where Kikongo was spoken by the Bakongo people. So we are talking largely about the remnants in the Caribbean of the cultures of the Congo. The map, please. All right, this first picture is an indication of, these are Kumina drummers, I think. Professor Hutton will speak, I think, to the Kumina religion. But what is of interest here for me is the fact that the drummers are seated on their drums. This is not usual in Africa. Usually the drummers sit or stand behind their drums or have them between their legs. But this is sort of a giveaway that this is a Central African practice to sit on the drums for certain of their dances and performances. And in this case, there usually is someone behind one of the drums with what are called kata sticks, and kata is itself a Kikongo term. By the way, Kikongo, the key in front indicates that we are talking about an abstract entity, language in this case. So you have the people seated on the drums, and then in Guyana, I encountered another type of African drum called in English, it's the friction drum. Yes, this one. You will notice a stick coming from the middle of the skin of on the top of the drum, so that we are looking at the inside of the drum. And how this drum is performed is that the drummer wets his hands and then pulls on the stick the length of the stick, and it makes a deep, hollow sound, very foreboding type of sound, and apparently was used when there was going to be an execution or something like that. In Cuba, the drum is called the kingfuti, and that word indicates that it is connected with death. The fua is the verb to kill. So the kingfuti is used for death, occasions involving death. And then we have the benta. It's not named, it's called the zither. Yes, this. There is one like it just at the entrance to the music museum. On the left-hand side as you enter, there is this instrument, a long strip of a long piece of bamboo that has a strip of the bamboo raised. You see it? The raised strip. And then the calabash with a hole, a resonating hole, is moved along the strip, and it makes a kind of sound. And those of you who have seen the NDTC's Kumina dance will notice that there is a benta. By the way, just to show you the way in which the African cultures, not only the European and African cultures, but the African cultures themselves, fused and synchronized in the Americas. The word benta, which is the word used here in Jamaica, is from what used to be the Gold Coast, present-day Ghana. So it's a Twi word, T-W-I, you will see it spelled. The Twi word referring to this particular instrument. So it is an instrument played in West Central Africa as well, and goes by various names. The influence on music, which is extensive, and we can't go into all of that, but we will just show you something of dance, hopefully. Can we see the kalim? This is the limbo, the limbo dance, again from West Central Africa, and it is associated largely, I think, with the Eastern Caribbean. But Ivy Baxter, some years ago when she was doing her research on Jamaican folk culture, she encountered the limbo dance somewhere in Trelawney or something like that, some place like that. And the older people knew about it, but the younger people did not know the dance. So the limbo dance is, it wasn't invented on the slave ships as some people think. It is one of the dances of West Central Africa. And then you have the kalimbe, again, I think in the Kumina, NDTC Kumina dance, yes, the kalimbe, Nettleford, we have it in Trinidad. I see, all right, okay. I wonder what we call it there. But it, yes, the bamboo poles are moved in and out, and the dancer has to balance. Yes, all right. So the kalimbe. And then there's the bomba dance. I hope you can you get the video to play? This is from Puerto Rico. Um, uh, can, yeah, all right, can, can you stop it for 1 minute? Uh-huh. This is a real expert dancer. And there are certain villages, certain towns in Puerto Rico with sizable African populations. And Loíza is one of them. And this is taking place in Loíza in Puerto Rico. Now, when this lady come, somebody had danced before her. You know, each dancer is showing off what they can do. But when she starts, if you look carefully, you will notice that she first bows to the lead drummer, and then she starts. Now, in Guyana, an old man in Guyana told me Congo dances were full of waist work. Plenty of that. So you'll notice the rolling of the shoulders as well. Can we have some volume? Again, yeah, I'm glad that was able to be played. It's a fantastic piece of dancing. Then I want to show you something of the stick fight in Trinidad. It's called the calendar. Can we have that, please? Stick fight. This is very much a Central African dance. The sticks they hold are called by the French word bois. That means stick. And you notice again, some of them are seated on the drums. The stick fighters wear particular costumes. This is carré, when they hold up the stick in a square formation. And so let's see some of this. The sport has been banned in Trinidad for some years, but they have brought it back recently as part of the cultural revival. But This, this sport is played in Puerto Rico. It's called Coco Ballet. In Cuba, it's called Mani. In Guyana, it's called Setu. And as I say, in parts of the Eastern Caribbean, it's known as calendar. But calendar is a term that is used both for dance and also for the stick fight. I want to go on to words. Words in Jamaican that are of Congo origin. Bandulu, Butu, Bufu or Bufutu, Bati, Bombo, Bu eye secretion, Jinal, Pinda, Pukumina, which does not have anything to do with madness. I have broken it down into Mpu Kumina. Mpu is the chief's cap in the Kikongo language. So it also stands for sovereignty, supremacy. Kumina is to laws, supremacy of laws. And the Kumina people and the Pukumina people speak of Bongo law. You have the law of Moses. In Cuba, the rites and ceremonies to the Orisha, or the deities, is known as La Regla de Ocha, the rule of the deities. So this notion of law is, as a matter of fact, in checking on the origin of the word, the etymology of the word religion, that L-E-G section of the word of the word religion has to do with laws. So that once you join a religion, you agree to obey and follow certain rules and regulations. So Pukumina, Laba Laba, Ningi Ningi, Gingy, you know those small fly, gingy fly. Fululoops, which you find in Miss Lou's poems. Kukumkum, kukumkum. You're thin like, you're mager like kukumkum. Mampi, Mampala, Mukut, meaning fool, Samfai, Tegareg, Punani, bands. The word bands as used by the Kumina people does not derive from English B-A-N-D-S, but rather from the Kikongo term Mbanza. Mbanza is a town or village, and it signifies community. So Miss Queenie, of Kumina fame, used to talk about her bands, and I thought it was Jamaican formation of English B-A-N-D-S, but an African-American scholar realized that it was really a form of Mbanza. So the bands is a community of people around a particular priest or priestess. Bongo, referring to African people. Kombala, Kinder, the Kinder tree in Akompong. That Kinder, again, it's a tree that symbolizes community, oneness. Gungu, Jonkanu, which I break down into Nzankunu. Nza, the z sound can become j sound. So and of course what we call the prenasal consonant, the nza, that gets dropped in the Caribbean, because the languages that the people encountered didn't have that particular sound combination. Nza unkunu. Kunu is ancestors. So it is the world of ancestors is what is being reenacted in Jonkanu. Kananapo. People know that one? Yes. All right. It means I'm finished with the thing. I'm ready to make my decision. Kumina, I derive from kamama, which means to feel obligated to carry out a certain action. And Miss Queenie spoke of holding duties. These duties are ceremonies. So the word kamama suggests, means duty. And mayal from mayala, meaning an agent of a higher authority. So mayalman is under the authority of certain ancestors or spirit forces. So, all right. In terms of place names, not many place names in Jamaica, but there's a place below Nani Town called Makunu Level, and that Kunu comes up again. Makunu is ancestors. In other words, it obviously was a village. There was a village there where the ancestors were buried, and the people moved to higher ground and left Makunu Level. And then there's Mafuta, somewhere in St. James, somewhere outside of Montego Bay. There's a town called Mafuta. You will hear it sometimes on the news. And a futa is ma is plural, and futa is an area that is abandoned, that is just bush. So it was part of the Montpelier estate. And then there in Moortown, there's a place called Budu Waswas. That is, it's a pool in the Wild Cane River where people bathed and where baptisms were carried out. Budu is meaning buttocks, and waswas is the old form of wash, W-A-S-H. W-A-S-H. It's where people bathe their buttocks. I want to, now can we get the, no, well, I give up on the map. Behold. As you see, Gabon, this is West Africa. But this is West Central Africa. It's both West and it is also Central in Africa. And the Congo is in this area and Angola is lower down. These are areas, as I say, the Portuguese started taking people from this area, places like Cabinda and Luango and so on, from the 17th century, from the early 17th century. And the Congo king complained to the king of Portugal that his people were taking out his sailors, his people, his soldiers, were taking away their population, and that was not what their diplomatic relations were all about. So I want to end with, can you get Papa San singing Shining Star? There's a technique of singing in Central Africa where they cluster a number of syllables together.
The Lord is shining on me. Listen, Jesus, you are my shining star. So enough people like a Jamaican star. Now people me bitch and I no news and star. Humble up yourself, you are my shining star. Give me no star, my shining star. So enough people like a Jamaican star. Now people me bitch and I no news and star. Humble up yourself, exalt my shining star. Give me no star. Shine the light for me every day. Monday right up to Sunday. Tell us the beginning of the run. Tell him say God never come. Father the Spirit to the Son. So you never put on the gun. Full time I start when it done. So whatever run the back down. Think you can't have the fun. Bloom your bloom of the sun. We not have to take up the yum. We don't want no it to run. We don't feel me life down. I want me a mark in a beast down. Must make it out of the slum. Tell him say hellfire burn. My shining star. So enough people like a Jamaican star. Now people me bitch and I no news and star.
Yes. That clustering of syllables, the line becomes about twice the length of the ordinary speed with the shining star, each note getting its own time. And then it's all right, that's all that I have for you. Thank you. Yeah.
When you see Professor Warner Lewis have moves. Thank you so much. I hope you're taking your notes. You don't have to have pen and paper. You can do it in your phone because we won't speak back to the conversation until after our next presenter, who I mentioned earlier on, but pleased to welcome to our platform, Professor of Caribbean Political Philosophy, Culture and Aesthetics. A very good photographer too. He doesn't share his photography to the people that might take the picture all the time, but he paints, and he arrived on time. Professor Clinton Hutton, who will look at Afro-Atlantic transformation and retention. The water is on there.
Thank you, Mom. The photographer. Get it. Brothers and sisters, good afternoon. All right. You know, there are some plays when I was growing up, some ring games, that beat, that quick, yeah man, there's some. Oh, so I have, I think the folder is called Folk and Performance.
You have that line up? Okay. So, I always learn a lot from Maureen. Always. Always. From a very long time. And therefore, ideas also shape my philosophy and my ideas about Caribbean political philosophy. So that's always very important. But what I'm going to do is to use my growing up and the things that I learned. And from that time, I've been questioning them, trying to find out meanings. I found some then, I found some later, and I'll find others much later. So when I was about 4 or 5, my mom used to leave cooked food outside in the yard, in Jericho, in Hanover, Cove Road section of Jericho in Hanover. She used to leave cooked food there. And her best friend, Miss Mary Brown, who could be her mother because Mary had children much older than my mother. And my mother used to bake potato pudding on Sundays. And after it is baked, we would go up to Miss Mary. When I was a little boy, she used to look after me. I stayed at her house. 3, 4. And Miss Mary actually used to put the food on a plate and take it to the burying ground, as we call it then, which is in the yard. And she would take the food, cook food, put it on the plate, and put out there. So from quite young, I started to realize that we have unseen relatives who needed to be fed, who were revered, who were called upon. That's my experience. And then there was a man by the name of William Lewis. They call him Tata. And his nickname was Kunu. Kunu or Kunubol. And Kunu used to have revival. So that's my first taste of revival. People come from all over, I don't know most of them, outside of the community on certain occasions. And they would sing, all their hair had wraps, sing, most of them dressed in white, sing, move. And then at the end of it all, the table would be taken down, the thing would be shared out. And I always slept during that time. I try hard to stay awake because you're going to share out the food and all of that. But then I realized afterwards, that's a tradition in the community. And then the tradition of feeding the ancestors. My father had a bar, and I noticed that most people, when they bought a drink, beer or rum, before they take their sip, they would pour some on the ground. Huh? And then I noticed that Kumina people do the same thing. Revival people, same thing. Right? And I did not see a difference between tipping the beer and putting the food on the grave. It's part of the tradition of feeding. Later on, I would learn that the Asian Revolution happened after two feasts. The first one in Wak came on. Two feasts. The first one, a bull was killed. The second one was a black pig. And they would gather the hair of the pig, fold it with other things, put it in a package, little package, hang it around your neck. Pake Congo. It has the same value as somebody who wear the ring, guard ring. Huh? Incidentally, the Morant Bay uprising of 1865 happened after, on the 10th of October 1865, in Stonygut, there was a tea meeting. Right? So we see this similarity with the Haitian Revolution, and we see it with Morant Bay. We also know that many of the supporters of Bogle were recently arrived in Jamaica, 1841. Set of Congolese people. It is said in my research that two old priests were advisors to Bogle, and they are actually buried in Stonygut. The two priests, from all description, and in fact explicitly stated, were Congolese people. They lived in Stonygut. But Bogle was also very close to a place called Johnstown. And when the authorities sent, I think, 4 policemen to Stonygut after the trial, I think some Wednesday before, week before, trial, a man being for trespassing, and over 100 people went, led by Bogle, to support him. And when he was sentenced to pay the cost and the fine, 2 payments, one person in the goat house shouted, "Pay the cost, but not the fine." Eventually, the man ran out of the courthouse into the crowd. And good sense prevailed because the authorities never tried to arrest him on that day. But they sent some policemen into Stonygut to arrest Bogle and I think 12 or 13 others. And the literature stated that these policemen were detained after Bogle shouted out, were detained by these persons. Most of them were from Johnstown. And Johnstown was really a village peopled mainly by Congolese people. Most of them came in 1841. By the way, there are 2 sets. The post-emancipation arrival of Congolese and other people, including people from Sierra Leone, in fact, who were from what is now called Nigeria. And some of them were previously freed by the British Navy from being sent to Cuba because people were still being brought into Cuba in enslavement, right? And in fact, Maureen wrote a book about, an article about this person who was, I think, Sierra Leone, I don't remember who actually was kidnapped. And actually, she became one of the first set of students at Michael. Mulgrave, taking the name of the governor of, Catherine Mulgrave, right. But she was kidnapped to be taken to Cuba from Angola, West Central Africa again. And off the coast of Jamaica, it sank. It met terrible seas, whatever it was, and sank. And most of the people were rescued. Some drowned, but most of them were rescued. And this woman, our girl at the time, and was rescued. And the governor, quote unquote, adopted her and another girl who was her friend. She eventually went back. Long story. It's in one of the issues of Jamaica Journal. Right? A very good story. So Johnstown was basically a community of people from West Central Africa. But before emancipation, there were also people from West Central Africa, including from the Congo. So the first set of Congolese never arrived in Jamaica after emancipation. It was like the second stage of migration. Well, it's not migration. This was forced, right? Or forced migration. All right? Good. So we see a relationship, therefore, in these feeding ceremonies, a relationship between the world of the living and the world of the ancestor. And that both worlds constitute the African community. Right? The world of the ancestors and the world of the living. And then that relationship continues to this day. More people need to learn what we have heard from Maureen. Let me put it a different way. The education system in Jamaica is very problematic. I've been in it from I was 16 years old. It is absolutely problematic. Not just at this level, do we will learn about our ancestors, but even more ancient ancestors. It's not usually in the formal system, in terms of curriculum, and in terms of literature, in terms of performances, and so on. So, the feeding rituals that we now see in Kumina, that we see in revival, and many of the other traditions of Africa, in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, signal the relationship between the world of the living and the world of the ancestors. And it is mediated by performances, by music, by visual arts, which is to note, we need to note that a lot of the popular tradition in music today derive from that folk tradition, as you can hear from Papa San. Right? We're not usually conscious at the level of education in the formal education system about these and how we interrogate these and how we link them together as part of our existence, as part of how we survive, as part of our redemption song. Even though we are 60 little bit years from independence, it's still problematic, although we have suffered 325 years, in fact 329 years of enslavement in Jamaica and at different levels across the Caribbean. One of the things, so the next thing is the feeding. There's the other relationship to ancestors now. When I was a boy, I used to go to wakes. And I could not figure out why at these wakes, at some time in these wakes, people were dancing, mimicking sex. And I always trying to find out why. And as a little boy, you can dance with the big woman them, and the big woman them rub you. Right? But you dare take it outside of that. Wakes. They would box it down your throat. It is for the wake. People dancing, the young and the old dancing. And part of the dance is to mimic sex. And I always, it never left me, I always trying to find out why is it so? And then, it was when I was writing my book on the revolution in Haiti, the logic and historical significance of the Haitian Revolution and the cosmological roots of Haitian freedom, that it dawned on me. That as the wake ceremonies that were taking place then, and there are songs too, the ceremonies that were taking place then, in these ceremonies that you were sending off someone to the ancestral realm, you were performing sex to bring someone into the world of the living. Right? So the world of the living increased by normal birth through normal sexual intercourse. And the world of the ancestors is also another birth. When someone dies, it gives birth to ancestry. And that's why the wake ceremonies were so important. So we increased the community of the ancestors through death and with special ceremonies. And some of them were described quite well. And I have gone online and seen some that still remain the same way in some countries. In fact, I've seen one in Mozambique It's a dead stamp of what I've read in Jamaica in the 18th century. Right? So, the community of the African people is a community of the living and a community of the dead. And that both communities interact. And that is why, for example, you do somebody something, and them gone over them grandfather grave. If you go wake up a dopey. Right? But they were doing the same thing. Bogle, Bookman, they were doing the same thing to bring their ancestors into war with them. To bring their ancestors into war with them. And that is why some of the things that they were wearing also have earth from the grave in there. Right? So in 1760, the uprising in St. Mary, led by Taki, they had oath-taking ceremonies. And those oath-taking ceremonies were done with the mediator being the dead. Right? And they had the same type of ceremonies, not just in 1860, but also in not 1760, but also in 1865. Bogle presided over some of those ceremonies. And one of the policemen who went to detain him observed that there were, in this particular ceremony, there were 7 men, each bearing a cutlass. Let's talk about Paul Bogle's church now. 7 men, each bearing a cutlass. That Bogle spoke to them in a language that he did not understand. I am suggesting that the language is some version of Kikongo, even ritually so, which is even today is called country in St. Thomas. Huh? So Bogle spoke to them in a language that the policeman did not understand. That they kissed the Bible. The Bible was not involved in the 1760 uprising, oath-taking ceremonies. It came after that, after George Lyle and so on and so forth. Right? That they each drank what that man called a dram of rum mixed with gunpowder. So the spirit that they were trying to evoke was a warrior spirit. And in our traditions across Jamaica, there are many examples symbolically of the warrior spirit in some of our rituals. In some Jankanu, you'll see a policeman, somebody in this Jankanu dressed like a policeman. That's a warrior spirit being invoked. Or you'll see them dancing, both in Kumina, both in Revival, in Jankanu, dancing with cutlasses. To this day, I've taken many photos of that. Right? So the images are ready. Could you begin for me, please? Oh. Okay. This is a revival in Wattown. And you see knotted ropes and cords and all of that thing. Could we dim the light? You know how long it takes to put them things together. I want to see them properly. Anyway, okay, so don't move from here. The first one, there are many of our rituals that still ritualize the Middle Passage, but also ritualize the opposition to the Middle Passage. And that first slide was one such slide, done in revival. Right? Okay. Go to the next one. The next one is somebody at a revival too, who is being possessed. And it's called Mayal. And Mayal has a Congolese root. Right? Just a few things on rituals of this type, possession rituals. During the time of slavery, plantation owners and white people in general could not understand how they work these people all day, and yet they set up at nights or steal away somewhere to worship. And what was central to this worship was the issue of possession. Just imagine somebody, as stated in Douglas Hall's book, and there were other examples, Hall is not the only example, that talking about 1754, a man who was being punished, and these are the words of the person who ordered him, Thomas Thistlewood, to be punished. Pickled him well, made Hector shit in his mouth, put in a gag whilst his mouth was full, and made him wear it 4 to 5 hours. And that's not the only example of that type. So the question is, how did our forebearers cope with their enslavement? I am suggesting to you that the traditions across the Caribbean that came with our forebearers, voodoo, Orisha, Lukumi or Santeria, then we have two traditions in Cuba. Lukumi, largely, they are both Pan-African types, but largely influenced by Yoruba. But there's another largely influenced by Congo. The name it is called one of the names in which that is called in Cuba is Mayombe, and it's Congolese. And therefore, these traditions that we were educated to hate were very, very important to the continuity of life. So just imagine that man who was forced to swallow human excrement. How did he survive? How did he get by? You know how? Through possession rituals. That's one of the ways in which they got by. And possession rituals is a very complex thing. It's not just what is it that they took, all of these things, what they sang, and so on. Right? So it was sociological, but it was also political. It was a form of political resistance. Right? So it happened in 1760. And you know what happened in 1760? That's the first time that the Obia law was introduced in Jamaica. It was introduced in Jamaica in 1760, and there are different versions coming down. The last version being 2013, which is, in other words, there's a section now about rights and so on that would prevent certain things, right? But the last one that we operated on, that we're operating on, is 1898. Right? If we do not understand how we are here and why we are here, we will fall or continue to fall to the propaganda that these things are uncivilized, coming from a people who are uncivilized, a people who we need to clean them out of these barbaric things. Even though they were trying to preserve themselves from the worst of European barbarism. Right? Okay, next one. Okay. When I was growing up, so it's time for discussion, so I'm going to stop. When I was growing up, trees of spirits. We still believe so. Right? When I was growing up, trees of spirits or soul. And in some trees, people just don't cut them down. They have a ceremony. Even today, they have a ceremony and beg pardon before the tree is cut. The tree, there was a cotton tree, and I have an image of it. There's a cotton tree near to Morant Bay. It was the last tree. That's the last place that Bogle with 500 odd people stopped under. Huge cotton tree. It subsequently died. But there's a photo of it taken in 1865. Huge cotton tree. Because under the cotton tree is regarded like a church. And it is said that that's where ancestors like to be. And so the last charge that Bogle gave to his people in 1865 was under a cotton tree that we have a photograph of. Right? Okay, so you could just fly through, because I stop here now. Many more things to say, but I stop. Yeah.
Okay, we're just checking the handheld for our presenters. And we'll also have one or two for the audience. We want to say good afternoon to those on the platform, the YouTube platform. I forgot to mention that it streams live to IOJ's YouTube, so you can share that with your family and friends. Professor Warner Lewis, in her presentation, grounded us in the historical reality of Central Africa's foundational in our culture, shaping language, cosmology, ritual, logic, and aesthetic systems. She spoke a little bit about the language that we use daily to each other and not know. We hear some in popular songs when she said, kukumkum, I remember Red Dragons, All Maga Girl. Some of you will remember that. She started out, when she started out, what I recalled first was Jabuk's Call Angola. So we hear it a lot in popular culture, perhaps. Her reference to NDTC classic Gary Bento that some of you'd see. By the way, you can go there later on for a tribute to Professor Rex Nettleford. And then Professor Hutton tied it up beautifully, demonstrating how these inheritances remain alive, mediated through performances, through music, through dance, and of course visual and even embodied art. So the practices like Kumina in his presentation are not just survivals on the margins, but active cultural archives, which is continually reworked. So I think it helps us to understand Jamaican popular music even not as a break from folk tradition, but more so an extension of it. And so we want to talk a little bit about these now. How can we frame this a little bit to think about the African retentions not as loss, but recognizing it as continuity through transformation? And I wanted to start with what I was thinking, because every year when I come to Grounation, I think we have very rich discussions. I think we have discussions that are important, not just to us, and some of us here are already aware, and we come to share in these practices. But I want to ask Professor Lewis that how should an understanding rather of Central Africa's specific contribution shape how African heritage is taught in a Caribbean education system, and perhaps before university level, beyond, this broad generic representation of Africa. So I'd like for us to just talk about that a little bit, Prof, before we move.
Well, I'm not sure what is being taught in the secondary schools.
Nothing. Nothing. I can't say that.
I'm not sure. Some years ago, I was approached by an official of the Ministry of Education to help with information for religious studies at secondary school. And I did 1 or 2 interviews with regard to that. So it appears that at least in religious studies, students are introduced to Christianity, Buddhism, Judaism, and also to some Caribbean forms of religious expression. So I don't know how extensive, that kind of curriculum goes. Does anybody? I don't know if anybody has information on what is being taught concerning Africa and African continuities in secondary schools. I remember a few years ago, someone contacted me and said that this was at basic school level. They had pictures of children in Africa, and they were white children. Now, there are white Africans, but I don't know why they would overlook, they are not a majority. I don't know why they would give the impression that Africa, to young children, that Africa was represented by European children who are there. But I think there's a question of imbalance there. So I don't know what is being taught regarding Africa and African continuities in the Caribbean. Can anybody help?
Dr. Blackwood Meeks, I know she probably think, why am I calling? But just because of your own work across Jamaica, in your role perhaps when you were at the Ministry of Education years ago and your continued involvement in culture and heritage through storytelling and otherwise. I'm very sorry to have put you in that spot, but I just wanted to ask before we move on.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I would like to salute Professor Emerita Maureen Warner-Lewis and Professor Clinton Hutton for the brilliant presentations that they made. This that Miss Douglas just did is called outing somebody. But since we're going on the outing, and we pack up the sandwich and the lemonade. Yes, I worked for a while at the Ministry of Education as the Director of Culture in Education. I think I know what that means, but I don't know if the ministry knows what that means.
That is outing.
And the Culture in Education program was designed to impact all of the subject areas. You know, we think of culture as in the English corner, you get up and you perform. That's not how it was conceptualized. It was supposed to use culture as the context, content, and methodology for delivering education across all subject areas. Why do I say that? I don't know if the ministry knows what that is supposed to do. I think one of the mistakes we make when we talk about what the ministry is or is not doing is that we fail to recognize that the Ministry of Education is doing exactly what it is designed to do. And that is to ensure that we grow up as nice little colonial children. Who know more of others and very little about ourselves. And in that, there is a call to action or a call for action. When these encounters, these brilliant encounters are finished, what do we do with them? What is the role of the Pan-African community, for example, in supervising the Ministry of Education to make sure it does what we want it to do? Sometimes when we say the ministry is not doing, it's not exactly true. Professor Warner-Lewis, you know that I'm aware of the set of interviews which that brilliant Moravian lady, Grace Speart, who was the officer in charge of RE, did. And it in a book. Just like how Beverly Hamilton, that great Garveyite, has in the grade 7, 8, and 9 social studies book, 29 pages about Marcus Garvey. I know because when I was doing the expanded program on Garvey, I went to see who had done what. And is it true that there is no Garvey in the curriculum? Beverly have 29 pages, grade 7, 8, and 9. But that's where it is, in the book, on a shelf. And so one of the things that we need to do is to honor the fact that something was done and to agitate that something be implemented so that we have something on which to build. The more we say nothing exists, is the more difficult the work becomes. Maybe because we want to feel like the Savior, and we say, see there, and me do it. But I know we do it. There are people who have been walking the road, and we have not honored their work by insisting that the foundations that they put down for all of us be expanded on, so that one day we can put on the roof. Has that answered you? Thank you very much.
I think Dr. Blackwood Meeks has more than answered. We did some outing too. Thank you so much for the perspective and the hard stops. Professor Hutton, I wanted to go over to you to just look at beyond archiving and... Oh, you have to be in the frame apparently, so I can... That's a whole study, you know. One day we'll study how we move from audience in front of us to satisfying the audience on the stream, and how much we put into the production for the stream, and often ignore what is happening on the ground. But that's for next year, perhaps. We can talk some more about that. But I wanted to just talk a little bit about how we can support these traditions. Just as ongoing, I recall watching a play at Edna. It was, I think it was a Marvin George direction on Shango. And it was the first time I saw a demonstration live of stick fighting. There were 2 strong stick fighting scenes. And I just wonder if, as a practice, that is something that we could, some of these traditions mentioned, if we could be more active in making it a practice across the country for consideration of how we use this in terms of how we move.
Yes, yeah, answer both. Yes, I think you have answered it. Marvin is actually doing wonderful work, and we need more people like him. But we need to also to train, teacher training in the colleges. We need to consciously do these things because our teachers is how we reach young people, right? Yes, from basic school, right? So we need to really prepare materials, right? And as you have heard, there are materials around, but we still need more materials. But the materials need to become words, or to become flesh, really, to be used in the classroom, in the teachers' colleges, in plays, and therefore our playwrights, our prospective playwrights, when we teach drama, these are some of the things. When we have materials that we can do, visiting places like wakes and so on. By the way, nowadays we see a lot of wakes. It's just a sound system. So I don't go to those wakes anymore. It's just a sound system. Wakes used to be a community participation. They brought their own instruments and songs, and I used to enjoy them. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Me tell Miss Gwen fi no walk a Eaton Road, cause T-bong round there. T-bong.
T-bong.
T-bong is the name of a man round Eaton Road, where Miss Gwen, who is the owner of the estate, white owner of the estate, she was being cautioned not to walk or not to go to that part of her property because T-bong round there. Right? And the next sentence, the T-bong file up him, figure Miss Gwen. So those songs fit the images of the dance. Right? And so yes, so there are many things. I have taken students to Stony Brook, for example, for years. And these are students from the United States and Canada and Europe. I have never seen any student, even from St. Thomas. So I took those students there and do lectures down there in Stony Gut. Right? When my son was 3 years old, I took him to Stony Gut. So these are some of the things that we need to do. Encourage people to visit sites, to talk at sites, behind the courthouse, to take them to wakes, to take them to revival, to introduce them and explain stylistically or aesthetically songs like the one that was played with Papa San. And there are many other songs like that. And the fact that many of our musicians, I mean, Slide Down Bar can tell you. Stony Gut is in St. Thomas. Who said that? It's no problem if you never know. Yo, no problem. All right, Stony Gut is in St. Thomas. The first time I went to Stony Gut, and I went to the place asking somebody, a group of persons, about 3 or so, where is Stony Gut? And there was a sign right there. Where is Stony Gut? And them said, where are you going at that place? During that time, Paul Bogle was still hated by the population in the area. Why you want to go down to that place? Right? But we need to encourage, and part of how we teach and train teachers and so on is to go to places like those and have lectures on the spot. Let's see the terrain. Right? Imagine the space. Right? Lie down on the ground. Right? We need to do those things.
Thank you, Prof. I see one hand here, one at the very back. The gentleman, thank you so much for just being honest and bold enough to say you don't know, because that's how we learn.
Sorry, Stony Gut is in St. Thomas, my brother.
Yes, you did answer him.
Yeah.
So let's go to Jeanette. Can we raise back the hand in the... Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jeanette Campbell. So, coming from what Khalid asked, and then Dr. Hutton, you said materials need to be developed, and then you mentioned taking people to Stony Gut. And I just want to add that if there isn't a kind of philosophy and maybe a spirituality around why are we going to Stony Gut? Why are we valuing these things? Why is it important for our children to know all these things about our heritage? Then is anybody going to take anybody to, I think there's, and you said teacher training, I'm not sure if it's happening in the teacher training. And personally, I just have a little feeling that what is happening in the religious landscape of the Jamaican society now is sort of bringing up some things that don't seem to be encouraging people to value the African heritage. That's just my little opinion. But I do feel that if people don't have inside them a philosophy, ontology, to use a word that you use, and I learned it from you, that says, no, this is important. I want our children to be introduced to, this dimension. then it's just not going to happen. Even if materials are there, 27 pages, you said, Miss Hamilton, has, So, yeah, I don't know how we're going to, because there's so much that they could go to, that they could see, because we live Africa all across our lives and our expressions. We do. People may not be aware of it, but we do. You have spoken of it. So, but if the teachers, the leaders, the parents, I don't know, don't feel that, and I just as my little personal aside, if there are religious systems that are sort of encouraging a kind of, no, don't look at Africa, then I don't know.
All right, thank you so much, Jeanette. And I'm reminded, perhaps some of what Dr. Blackwood may say, that it's important that we don't say that something is not being done. It's my own experience when I kind of uttered nothing when I look at some of the high school syllabus, because you can go on the website to find all of the syllabuses across the year group. There's a full year for history, for instance, in 3rd form or 9th grade, that is American history specifically. And I try to understand the why, but there's a full year of doing that in some of our most prominent high schools, and there is not that kind of concentration on African histories at all. You may see it in the chapter. So that was where I was coming from as a parent, and that's my observation. Then they get to 4th form and we go to West Indian history. And 6th form, they bring in a little bit of European, but there's not a concentrated syllabus on African history at all. That's at least my basic knowledge just as a parent and what I remember from high school. I saw 2 hands back there. Prof, please feel free to comment if you wanted to. We had 2 hands. We'll take those.
All right, here's
and
one
no
right
one
here.
in this. Okay.
And I'm going to ask persons, gentlemen over there, that you just introduce yourself and be brief, direct with your questions so we can get as many persons, please. Also you. Introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. My name is Gallimore, Clive Gallimore. I could call myself a Grounation attendee. Lovely presentation by the 2 professors. But I just want to quickly ask Professor Hutton if you could just clarify when you said that the policemen were detained. That doesn't sound like it was physical detainment. So I want to find out if it's something more of a spiritual detainment. That was what I had.
No, they were detained. They could not leave.
Oh.
They could not leave. They were detained for many hours.
So they were under power.
It was 5 of them, right?
They were under power.
They were physically detained, but not only that.
Yeah.
They were then asked to take oath that they should cleave from the whites and cleave to the blacks. Color for color, skin for skin.
Thank you. Just to quickly say that when Dr. Meek spoke about the lady, Beverly Allen, and somebody I met her and spoke with, she's right on the money. Shockingly, when she was supposed to do, she talked about the 7, 8, and 9, that curriculum. Her response, when I asked her, she said, the people at the Ministry of Education didn't know anything about Marcus Garvey. Shocking but true.
And I think that takes into consideration Professor Hutton's own point about starting with the teachers. Something else was mentioned that I do find interesting when we talk about retentions, the wake and the tradition of that's changing, because funeral homes, it's such big business. They now have their own bands and when you go for a package, they give you a whole package. I'm from deep rural Jamaica, beyond Moko, and so we still have traditional wakes, and sometimes the bands that come in. So consideration, perhaps, whether it's the JCDC or some of our cultural activists to engage these funeral homes who are making it commercial, that they don't forget traditions and heritage, because that's really what has changed. It's not the locals anymore. They're coming in with their own systems. And so let's not ignore that that's what's happening. It's a commercial activity, the Duppy Band them. So we train the Duppy Band them so that the knowledge is passed on. That's just a thought, but it's not my time, it's the audience time. We take 2 more, please? 3? Can we get volume on the audience mic, please? It's probably not turned on. And for the other 2 questions, can you come out to the middle so that you're in the shot? So we'll take this gentleman and then we come to you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Just want to say thanks to both professors for the excellent presentation. Question. I kind of pick up us grappling with the Christian tradition, the deep Christian traditions, and the deep African traditions. The whole question that question came up about whether obeah should be legalized, and we saw the church, some members of the conservative church, come out very strongly against it, and so on. So I know both of you have done a lot of work on Alexander Bedford, who was deeply a Christian man. His theology was rooted. He accepted Jesus Christ as the Messiah. He believed in the Trinity. And he also believed in biblical prophecy. And formed, as far as I know, he was instrumental in the Native Baptist Church. I am suggesting that should we revisit Alexander Bedford? That's a last point here. I remember the late Bello, who played Bedford in a play, a couple of plays produced by Louis Marriott. Same Bedford was a very prominent speaking in tongues pastor later in life. So he was able to combine both. So why has Alexander Bedford been left into the white man's history of Bellevue? Why don't people like us bring him back to the kind of prominence I think he deserves? That's what my question.
All right, Professor Warner Lewis will respond first.
A book has recently been published on Bedford.
Dave Goss.
Dave Goss, who is himself a pastor and historian, has published a book. So it was published by the University of the UWI Press. So Gosse, Dave Goss, you could follow up with that and see what more you can learn about Bedford. It's a substantial book.
Thanks for that, Prof.
All right, so we have, all right, persons, I'm going to ask that you introduce yourself and go straight to the question, all right? Please, gentleman over there.
Yeah, good evening.
Okay, this is the last question, you hear? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Second to last.
Your call.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So we can go on now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good evening. The government name is Rayan Wittenham, but we don't call me Roy. Okay, now, you mentioned about what is happening at the dead yards and the waves. Just quickly to say that the tradition is that if you have if they are dead and the dead yard They are all of that wonderful things happen, but when the grave are dig, no stranger, no outsider can come dig. Something otherwise, the grave can dig. Nowadays, as I said, commercialization, the funeral homes control every single Saturday. True or false? True. The question is, revivalism or the revivalists, the Maroons, and some people, when say the other person coming as the one, right? They remove spirit from somebody. Okay? It's evil. The church does exorcism. Tell me something now, however we educate others and brainwash all of us and the people to come. That's the question. How do we do that?
What do you mean by what you do?
Okay, so re-educate. What as far as I'm concerned, brainwashing and brainwashers.
Yeah, it just means that we have to deal with the agencies of socialization in this country. Central to all of that is the issue of education. And central to the issue of education in a more philosophical way, pedagogy and the issue of identity, which is central to Garvey's philosophy, that the first principle of education is self-discovery. Right? And in that speech that he made in 1937, he said, none but ourselves. It can't be some people from outside. It's something that we have to grapple with. But to grapple with it, we have to know ourselves. We have to know our history. And that history is not taught in school in the way it should be taught. There are some courses I taught at UWI, and at the end of them, what I always hear, sir, how come we don't know those things? Consistently. How come we don't know about those things? Right? And then, of course, I will begin to explain more. Right? And as I've written the other day, we do not need a European population in Jamaica for white supremacy to continue. We will carry it out ourselves.
Amen. Well, I like how we've come back full circle. Yeah. When Dr. Blackwood Meek said that the education, the ministry is doing exactly what it was designed to do. We're well-behaved people. We have two more. Prof, did you want to comment on this one? Prof is good. And I'm going to encourage you to start. Outside, we have iNation. I'm not trying to advertise. I'm trying to get you to actively read. Professor Lewis's book is actually outside, so you can purchase so that you can share with your grandchild or your child or a friend, your neighbor's daughter or son. So it's important that we also put these books in front of their faces too. So everything is not necessarily... And I call this my quasi-academic journal. Because when I don't want to read where the bright people them who talk in academies, right, I can go to this quickly and I understand it and it's very accessible. I'm not throwing any words, I'm not outing anyone. But I do think when we do research, when we do write, if we're not making a difference, then we're not doing anything. So let us write so people understand it. Jamaica Journal is a good start for those who are not so much in the academic space. So let's take the two gentlemen over here. I beg your pardon, my brethren. We'll take the gentleman, then we'll go to the kingman beside him.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ardick Miller. I am from Maroon Town County, As you know, I want to ask Professor the camera in him and a question. When you say when the spirit go into the guy, right? Do it actually come out back or what? And I want to say this now. What do you guys think? We must be revival in the school so that our children them can know about revival and our history more and more.
He's busy taking a picture of you. He's going to respond. Let us take the other question in the meantime, and I'll remind him if he doesn't. Let us take the other.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is not really a question. Dr. Meeks usually have a storytelling session at Red Camp, Town Red Camp. I used to go attend it, and my children used to attend it.
There's a whole week.
No, I'm saying that it used to happen.
Okay.
So that's a part of learning that doesn't go through. Well, we were not told it was going through the Ministry of Education. However, what I'd like to tell you is that I learned about the Haitian Revolution for the first time at University of the West Indies, not at high school.
Thanks so much. Professor Hunt, you want to go ahead and respond to the first. Thank you for that comment.
Yeah, well, I think what is important is to understand there's a whole complex about spirituality, about religion, about their role in society, about how meanings are constructed, about the role that these expressions played historically and in our journey. So we have to be educated about that, right? I have gone to Wattown, and increasingly, I've been going to Wattown for 20 odd years, 26 years. And then people have been seeing increasing amount of students going to Wattown. I think the same should be done for Kumina. I know that there are people who are very afraid. Sad to say that. I was invited to speak at a school in Portland. The school shall remain nameless. There was an exhibition there from the Institute of Jamaica on revival. No, from the ACIJ on revival. So she took me there to see the room where it is being exhibited. And then immediately she said, I'm not staying in here. And she left, right? I know that there are teachers who do not teach carving and the making of images because it's against their religion and all the things. In other words, another type of education is being used to silence our existence. And there are students, for example, I'm showing some photos. I have over 1 million photos. I've been showing some photos, and some students look at it and say, whoa, dance hall. Right? And then I have to do a talk about the role of spirit, the culture of spirit, the cultural traditions in Jamaica and the Caribbean. Why is it what you call dancehall? Where is it coming from? What are some of the important meanings? Interestingly, you know, the idea about freedom in Jamaica and in the Caribbean. And it's one of the longest struggles for freedom in the world is rooted in Caribbean experience and in Caribbean resistance to slavery and colonialism.
Thank you, Prof.
And But the notions of freedom are rooted in the things. We can't talk about it today, but they are rooted in the very things that we're talking about here. Huh?
Give thanks, Prof, and give thanks for being a wonderful audience. I actually think that the solution perhaps to a lot of what is being asked is that we have to have more Grounation, not just in Kingston, not just during Reggae Month, but throughout the year. I see Judith Alberga nodding down there. Judith just nod. She has very big position at TVJ and responsible for local content. So perhaps what we can do is consider some of these things. Am I not right? But we can ask them, especially since we are online, that they facilitate some of these conversations that the rest of Jamaica can hear it and have access to it. Because there's also the economics of education where the poor country school come here, did one of them. One time a year we can't afford one trip for come a town, and everything is centered in the central part of Jamaica. So we have that. I think there's a consideration for us to support Herbie to have more of these conversations that really matter some more. Please keep the applause going for our wonderful speakers, Professor Clinton Hutton and Professor Maureen Warner-Lewis, for sharing with us today. Thank you so much for your knowledge and your dedication to education and culture. I want to say that next week, same time, same place, I'm not rapping, but I wanted to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Kurt Henry from the African Caribbean Institute, who is one of the panelists next week, along with Dr. Lantonette Steins and my favorite storyteller, Dr. Amina Blackwood Meeks, would be the moderator for next week's sessions, so she can out some more people when she come and take the mic. I wanted to be three people when I was growing up. Dr. Amina Blackwood Meeks, Faye Ellington, and Caroline Cooper. And I'm still trying to wrap the three of them up so I could embody it, you know? So we give thanks for our wonderful minds that we have. And we want us to honor them and to make sure that we can help them to carry our traditions to our young people so that it's not dead. We move now to a special part of the program. Mr. Milaiko Wolono called me one time, but yes, I'm going to remind you that we accept donations. The box is being moved around. We have a special presentation to our speakers. Is that what you're saying to me? I know the program, sir. Can you stop directing me on this stage? Give thanks, though. He's a good stage manager. Put your hands together for him. But just to say that I'm not as old as Herbie, so I'm still fresh and active. I would like to invite Zion to this stage. We have, is she here or did she go outside with baby? I also want to acknowledge some special guests. Red Rose, make them see you now. Because the sun at near, say, man, look round upon you in them shades. Pick up yourself. Rory, I call him Mr. One Pop, who've been working with Sly Dunbar, Sly and Robbie, from Taxi Studios. Thank you so much for coming. Is Zion around? She's coming in. Somebody have the baby. Where is my beloved stage manager? Come now, we need your help. And I'm going to invite Mr. Herbie Miller, curator of the Jamaica Music Museum, head cook and buckle washer for Grounation, the most wonderful, miserablest man who will ever meet. We don't clap him, but we love him, and all that he is. And I'm going to invite Mrs. Thelma Dunbar, widow of Mr. Sly Dunbar, to the platform for this special presentation. As the professors leave the stage, please put your hands together again to show them some appreciation. Oh, you're going to make her walk, read it. You need help, Prof? This is for Prof. So why not sit down? Zion, we want to run the program. He goes in small bursts. They will stand. I don't know why Herbie. Where you go with the one for bag them and offer them there? We want the picture for. We like gifts, but she have a whole heap of things up here. Herbie and Thelma, make them see a pretty frock. Stand up, Herbie. I don't know what you're showing, but we want them to stand while we make this very special presentation. Zion Sky is an artist, an intuitive artist, and I think it's very heavy. I don't know why the stage manager turn up here so and that makes she struggle with the something. Kurt, thank you. Zion, can you just share with the audience a little bit about the inspiration behind this stool quickly before we hand it over? Oh, thank you.
Greetings and salutation, everyone. I am Zion Sky, as stated. And the inspiration behind, or which say with this drum stool, is by Mr. Sly Dunbar himself. As you can see, it looks like an octopus. That's because one of the nicknames that he had was the octopus drummer. Because the way he drums, it would seem like he had many arms, right? So it wasn't his many arms. It was, for me, the spirit of his ancestors that was also drumming with him, right? And on his birthday in 2025, I had the inspiration to make this drum stool. We call it the Ubuntu drum bar stool, right? Now, the Ubuntu, as we know, it means I am because you are. And I know that Mr. Drumbar is the man, and forgive me if I say this is not a blaspheme, he is the God in flesh on earth for many of us as artists, musicians, creatives, and free-spirited individuals. And so this stool has 8 Adinkra symbols that I think represents him very well, right? I won't go into each symbol.
No, you don't have the time, makes
right?
the time up.
So I am presenting it today to the museum, to the Jamaica Music Museum, in the presence of his beautiful queen, Mrs. Thelma Dunbar.
Right? Right, thank you so much, Zion.
Thank you. Bless you. Bless you. And I have for gifts as well. Mr. Dunbar had a scent that he loved that I created for him, and he would take it everywhere with him on tours, and he would always be wearing it every day, all day, right? So I am presenting also that body oil that he always wear to you as well, and for each of one for each of you, right? So this one, this is for yeah. So there is we can give it for you. Oh. Yes, you're gonna have the essence of Sly.
Thank you so much, Zion. Thank you for sharing.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is an honor to be here today to help Zion hand over this beautiful sculpture she created for Lowell Sly Dunbar for the Institute of Jamaica, Because of his passing, we decided to donate it to the museum. I know he would want us to donate this sculpture today, and we thank Mr. Miller for inviting me to the Jamaica Music Museum Grounation 2026. I'm a little bit nervous, a little bit sad, so please see with me today. Okay? Thank you so much.
We all are a little bit sad, or plenty sad, that Sly transitioned, but his spirit will always be with us. The drums will always talk, and Sly was certainly one of the great masters of the drums. It was not even a year ago that Rory called me one day and told me he wanted to see the work of Zion. It took a little while for us to get it together, but I did visit her at her studio with Rory, and the result was that after visiting the Jamaica Music Museum gallery across the hall, the first thing she wanted to do was to donate a stool, which was suggested. It was suggested that a bench be placed in there for us who wanted to take a little rest as we walked through, by Miss Tender Henry, one of my colleagues here. And Zion jumped at the opportunity and created a bench you'll see in next door.
Thank you.
Now to thank Zion on behalf of the Jamaican nation for contributing this wonderful work of art in the spirit of the great Lowell Bayer Sly Dunbar. I'm trying to get my ball for a third time. But
give thanks. Put your hands together
Yeah,
for
man.
Zion Sky. And for Thelma. I want to know, say Sly and go have one picnic. Shelley, who may be watching us online, so we want to give thanks for that. One of the beautiful things about Sly is that Sly think everybody is great, you know. So when you call him, first greeting is Wagwan the great Herbie Miller, or Wagwan the great Colleen. Very generous in spirit, and we, you know, it's nice to have a scent of him. Thank you so much, Zion, and thank you so much for Thelma for sharing him.
some of you here might remember perhaps 2018 when we did that Grounation called the Chinese contribution to Jamaican music, and Sly led the revolutionaries up here after he spoke about his days at Channel One. So no stranger to us here. The first major gift we got here, Sly pulled up outside the first few months I was working here and gave us that Simmons drum that you see over there, supported us until such time. The great Sly Dunbar.
Thank you so much, Herbie. Thank you so much, Thelma. We have some things we give away before the performance. The performers are ready. There are some vouchers for Texaco. If you do not drive, don't come for any. You have to either ride a bike or drive a car. And you know the bike man them can use this about 4 times. So I want, okay, so anybody can tell me what's the most popular song for the Rhythm Twins? Or Rhythm, rather. No, you don't qualify. Come for this something, yeah? You drive? Or you go give your friend? And please play Taxi for the young people for me. Hear them run a back a plate with them out. Give thanks. I want somebody to remind us of the theme for today. Anybody? Oh, it's the ones called Sly and Robbie. The Taxi Gang. You're reading it? Anybody here? Come, go to her. She could.
African roots to Jamaican fruits.
Thank you. Put your hands together for her. She was listening and paying attention. I have two more. I want somebody very young now, which means you have to be below 30. Can tell me the full name of our first speaker. I said young and not from Trinidad. Come. I want her to come to tell me the second speaker.
Marine Hoos. Marine Hoos. Mona Lewis.
And read her name now.
Maureen Warner Lewis.
Maureen Warner Lewis. You're going to give this to an adult who can make use of it. Thank you. I saw the other young lady. You want to share the name of the second speaker? Oh, one fell? You're under 30? You can't answer? Kurt, you're not qualified because you're under the IOJ umbrella. All right, anybody, I'm raising the age. Over 30? Professor Clinton Hutton, give him a hand. All right, time ago, so permission to keep this for myself. Come, sir. You can have it because you raise your hand and you look younger than me. So, at this time, we're pleased to invite the performers for the day. We know them. The Guara Cherry Kumina Group. You want to remind me which parish you're from? Some of the members are from Kingston, another set from St. Catherine, and they're here to share with us. I'll recognize some of the faces there. Remember, you're from School of Dance. So put your hands together for the young people from the Guara Cherry Kumina Group.
Lately I have had the strangest feelings with no valid reasons here to find. Yet the thought of losing you's been hanging on my mind. Far more frequently you're wearing perfume. With you say no special place to go. And when I ask you if you're coming back soon, you don't know, never know. Well, to tell myself I have no reason with your heart. Just the other night while you were sleeping, I vaguely heard you whisper someone's name. And when I ask you all the thoughts you're keeping, you just say nothing's changed. Well, I'm a man of many wishes. I hope my premonition misses what I really feel. My eyes won't let me hide, 'cause they always start to cry. Oh, and this time could mean goodbye. Oh, I'm gonna tell you, 'cause they always start to cry. Oh, and this time could mean goodbye. I saw me say, I see people from a top to the very last job. It's a taxi gang something. But I play from a top to the very last
Check. By now, no figure out, say the same engineer we did up here did mute the mic them so we couldn't talk. Just want to remind you that all month, February is Reggae Month, Black History Month. There are a couple of activities happening across Kingston, across Jamaica. The Black History series at the University of the West Indies starts tomorrow at the multifunctional room at the library at 6 o'clock. You feel free to go to that. As usual, Reggae Wednesdays is at the Edna Manley College. Lord, and I love when a friend of me, when I just talk and no hear me. This Wednesday, they go to the Cliff to honor Jimmy Cliff. Next week, they're back again to actually honor Sly Dunbar with the band, a kind of drum aggregation. So we invite you to come to that. Next week, this time, remember I said Dr. Blackwood Meeks will be moderating the session with Lantonette Steins, Dr. Lantonette Steins, and Dr. Kurt Henry. And then we have another session on the 22nd that you'll hear about next week. Is there anything else? The museum is open always. I do not want you to see the performance that we're going to experience as entertainment, but let us consciously start seeing, putting all that we spoke about in action where it exists, and we want you to just feel the presence, honor the tradition, honor our African heritage, and honor the young people who are carrying it forward through performance. So please make welcome the Guara Cherry Group out of Kingston, St. Andrew, and St. Catherine. Boy, Dr. Barnett, me can't remember everything. There's another event on Thursday at the University of the West Indies. My number is 4685409. I can give you all the other info that you want. Please make welcome the Guara Cherry Kumina Group.
kowa come, kowa come, and the kowa come, kowa come, and the kowa come, yeah, kowa come, hey, kowa come, kowa come, kowa come, kowa come, kowa come, ah, kowa come, and the kowa come, yeah, kowa come, ah, kowa come, and the kowa come, and the kowa come, kowa come, kowa come, kowa come, kowa come, ah, kowa come, ah, kowa come, ah, the kowa come, ah, the kowa come, yeah, kowa come, ah, kowa come, kowa come, ah, the kowa come, ah, kowa come, kowa come, kowa come, kowa come, kowa come, kowa come, ah, kowa come, ah, the kowa come, ah, the kowa come, ah, the kowa come, ah, the kowa come, yeah, kowa come, ah, kowa come, ah, the kowa come, ah, kowa come, ah, the kowa come, ah, kowa come, ah, kowa come, ah, the kowa come, ah, kowa come, ayawo, ah, kowa come, malembe panga, kowa come, malembe twiza, kowa come, ah, 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 the 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 kowa come, hey, kowa come, ah, the kowa come, ah, the kowa come, ah, the kowa come, ah, kowa come, ah, kowa come, ah, kowa come, hey, kowa come, ah, the kowa come, ah, the kowa, ah, yeah, boy, ah, the kowa come, 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 kowa come, ah, the kowa come, oh, the kowa come, ah, the kowa come, ah, the kowa come, yeah, kowa come, yeah, kowa come, yeah, kowa come, yeah, kowa come, kowa come, ah, the kowa come, ah, the kowa come, kowa come, kowa come, kowa come, ah, the kowa, imada mumu, the kowa ninkia, the boke yofa, one Red Bull cup, the kowa ninkia, you hear the mumu, you hear the mumu, the kowa ninkia, the kowa ninkia, the boke yofa, one matako, one matabulko, the kowa ninkia, you hear the mumu, you hear the mumu, the kowa ninkia, your standing no run, your phone a got done, the kowa ninkia, you hear the mumu, you hear the mumu, the kowa ninkia, your standing no run, your phone a got done, you hear the mumu, you hear the mumu, you hear the mumu, you hear the mumu, the kowa ninkia, the boke yofa, you hear the mumu, you hear the mumu, you hear the mumu, you hear the mumu, the kowa ninkia, mama tabulko, the boke yo, you hear the mumu, you hear the mumu, you hear the mumu, you hear the mumu, I'm gonna run, your phone a go done, the kowa ninkia, one big black cow, and one big red cow, one big.
much to the Guava Cherry Kumina group. Please put your hands together for them. We want to say thank you again to our panelists this afternoon rather, Professor Clinton Hutton and Professor Maureen Warner-Lewis. We want to say thank you to our sponsors, Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, the Institute of Jamaica, Tasty Jamaica, S Hotels, B&D Trawling, Marius Fletcher and Gordon, Pan Jamaica, VNP Foundation, Freight Handlers, Martella Fennel, Discovery Water, Lasco, Chase Fund, IRA FM, Roots FM, Cool 97 FM. We invite you to stay back with us for refreshments, and also remind you that we have vendors on the outside, including Nation Books, Discovery Water, and other goods are on sale. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Thank you.
Just do what we tell you for the sister, and make sure that everything work according to all man's everything works. See? Take back yourself and build yourself in a one piece. Make sure you reach. Hear me? Lord of mercy. Hey, Lord of His mercy. Lord of mercy. Driver. Don't stop at all.